meeting.
I got to tell you, I don't mind that music because every time I hear it, I know something is about to happen. TV Talk, brought to you by Ayn Rand Center UK, with Mark Pellegrino here with my two partners in crime, my usual partners in crime, Jennifer Bouani and Jacqueline Schumann. You might notice a bit of an unusual background for me today. It's not a computer-generated image. I am in a car with the air conditioning on, outside of an audition, waiting to go in. So we are broadcasting 30 minutes early so that I can do that.
This
and
is
the
dedication.
Topic,
dedication, Mark.
What I call dedication and flexible schedules for us all. Well, today we're going to be talking about season 4 of the Netflix super smash series, Stranger Things. If you don't like this series, you're out of your mind. If you do like it, you're totally cool because it's a total Revenge of the Nerds show as far as I'm concerned. And we'll get right into it. But since I don't have the data right in front of me, we're going to talk about the actors and stuff in a moment. Prepare for spoilers, everybody, because there's going to be tons of spoilers. But I think before we head into season 4, we should probably do a quick recap of 1, 2, and 3. Incredibly complicated plots, I think. Difficult to describe verbally, but we should do that. Shouldn't we?
Oh, well, are you prepared to do that, Mark?
I don't know. I may confuse seasons at the moment, but hey, what the heck. So I think season 1, we get introduced to the superhero of the story, Elle, aka 11, and discover through the course of that story that her telepathic powers, which are being used in an experimental, in a United States government experiment in telepathy and such.
Telekinesic, I think. Because
whatever. Telekinesis, tell us something. Has opened up a rift in between this world and another world called
the Upside Down.
The Upside Down. Right. And so the main bad guy in that story is a character called the Mind Flayer. Now we don't know if it's actually the Mind Flayer, but our group of nerds who are trying to figure out what the heck is going on are equating pretty much every thing that's happening in their world to the great game Dungeons and Dragons, which they're all familiar with, and that gives them some mythological context and some context to fight the Mind Flayer with. Well, at the end of season 1, I believe Elle closes the portal, right? She closes the rift, and the threat that the Mind Flayer poses to the little town of Hawkins, Indiana. It's always the little Midwestern towns where crazy things are going on. And then season 2 opens with, I believe, a Cold War scenario where the Russians have sort of covertly invaded Hawkins. They've invented a machine to open this portal to the Upside Down and to try to weaponize some of the creatures in the Upside Down. Am I right so far, guys, or am I off?
Yeah, I think you are. I think you are spot on. I had forgotten that season 2 brought in the big Russian element. So yeah,
big Russian element is very meaningful because the 1980s for me were the era of Reagan, and at that time the Cold War had ratcheted up to its height before it collapses in 1989 on the Russians' heads. They were the big Russian bear that we were all scared of, and it played a real part in the daily lives of kids growing up, I think from the 50s on, but especially in the 80s when everybody thought Reagan was a cowboy and he had his finger poised over the red button and we were all about ready to die. Well, of course, the intellectuals got it wrong. The opposite happened. It was the Soviet Union that died because they suck. And you know what? They suck in this too. So the object of season 2 is to find this machine which exists in this subterranean realm deep underneath a pseudo mall, which is actually the headquarters for the Soviet Union. Isn't it always?
I love that it's always a mall. It's always a mall.
Right. The malls are the havens. Well, yeah, the malls are the sources of zombie apocalypses.
Malls are like the hell mouths of all things supernatural.
They are the hell. They are the maws of hell, and they are the maw of the Soviet Union. So the deal in that season is to find the weapon, disable it, and make sure that portal stays closed, so that these weaponized creatures do not actually stay in the world. And there's an aspect to the story where uh, all of these creatures are sort of connected to each other by a mind hive. So you kill the brain, you kill them all, so to speak. And so that's the object of the second season. But of course, that leaves us with the possible death of one of the main characters and the hero of Hawkins, Sheriff Hopper, who I
Hopper,
think is
Jim Hopper,
Jim Hopper, who I think is a
played by
great character,
David Harbour.
Love him.
played by the inimitable David Harbour. He might have some crazy bad political beliefs, but he's a doggone good actor.
Does he? I don't want to know.
I think he,
Yeah.
I think he went on the podium during the SAG Awards and said some ignorant actor stuff. But hey, he's awesome. I love him anyway. And hey, he can reform. There's time, and he's playing a heroic character. So season 3, well, I should say the Mind Flayer takes physical in season 2 takes on a physical identity. So it's not just that they have to close this port. There's the Mind Flayer is now infesting the town of Hawkins, right? And using the biological material of people to grow strength. And so they have to kill the Mind Flayer, and they have to shut the portal, destroy the portal at the same time again. Anyway, and that's when our dear friend Hopper seems to bite the big one. Only in season 3 we find out that may not necessarily be the case. Turns out Hopper was alive. He was captured by the Russians and taken to a dark, cold place, aka a gulag.
Somewhere in Siberia, I imagine.
Somewhere in Siberia. For any of
Yeah,
you,
they're always in Siberia.
For any of you kids who don't know what that is, a gulag is a housing project from the Soviet Union where slave labor is used to maintain the pretense that the Soviet Union is actually a productive country, which it isn't. But there's a lot of torture and terrible things that go on there. And so he's stuck there. And Hawkins, what's happening in Hawkins right now in season 3? I know
In season 3, what's happening? Oh gosh.
So, I mean, I skipped over a lot of stuff. I skipped over Billy in season 2, but that's okay. Well, we could talk about that later. Anyway, the object in this season is to catch the sort of general of the Mind Flayer, who turns out to be one of the experimental models that was experimented on in the original laboratory that gave us 11. And this person was number 1, was, I guess, the prototype of the telekinetic beings that they were trying to weaponize for America. So they have to rescue Hopper from Siberia once they discover he's alive. And we find out that one is indeed this malignant figure who lives in the Upside Down and who is now attempting to create portals through the deaths of other people. And he acts very much like the devil. He finds people who have a lot of sin in their lives
and guilt,
and he gets into their heads and then uses that as a delivery mechanism to get into their brains, and then takes their lives literally sucks the life and souls right out of them. They become a part of him. And in the meantime, they become a portal, a gate through which he can enter into the world and, of course, destroy it like all bad things want to do. And this is season 3, right, that I'm talking about?
Now you're into season 4, Mark.
So now I'm into season 4.
Now you're into because season 3 was when the Flayer took over Billy's mind.
That was season 3.
The mind in season 3, the mind. Go ahead.
That wasn't season 2.
Now that's season three. Season three is the Mind Flayer takes control of Billy's mind, and Dustin and all of his buddies have to fight Billy.
Okay,
And
right. Thank you.
now, so what you're thinking of is the earlier, because remember season four was in two parts. So we
Right.
had
So,
like
or,
the first four
right.
episodes or five or six, and then the last two super long episodes. But the dude, the evil dude that's creating portals, maybe that happened at the end of season three, but that continued on into season four.
Right. So that we get that in season four. So yeah, I'm mishing together the seasons, but who cares? It's a very complicated plot with lots of things going on. You got to go backwards in time and in order to establish why things happen the way they do. In season four, you in fact find out how it was that Elle opened the portal in season one. So there's a lot of reveals deep in the series that happen early on in the show. So anyway, yes. So the idea is to kill this general, get rid of him because he's creating portals so that the Mind Flayer can then again, I guess, and he enter into the world and take it over, make it like the Upside Down. And so the kids have to band together, and Elle has to get her superpowers back because she
Yes,
loses
she's
them,
lost him.
lost them at the end of season three, just to get those back in order to help the kids fight this terrible beast, which they do. But like Michael Myers, this guy, one this demonic character seems to have slipped through their fingers, and at the very end of the show, a massive portal seems to have opened up through Hawkins itself, and portending perhaps that there's going to be a season five and a big, huge fight to come. All right, that was a sort of crappy rendition of everything. I missed the seasons up, but that sort of brings everybody up to date. Yeah.
That was a great overview. That was a great summary, and I'll add a little bit to it just in terms of how popular and award winning this show is. It has won 7 Primetime Emmy Awards, another 70 wins, and 246 nominations. It gets an 8.7 out of 10 on IMDb, which
That
is
matters to
is very, very highly rated. The creators are the Duffer Brothers, Matt and Ross Duffer, and I think that they're very active showrunners. I think that they have had a hand in every single episode, if not personally written every episode. And it does star Winona Ryder, David Harbour, Finn Wolfhard as Mike Wheeler, Millie Bobby Brown as Eleven, Gaten Matarazzo as Dustin, Caleb McLaughlin as one of the kids, Lucas Sinclair, Natalia Dyer as Nancy Wheeler. A fantastic, fantastic cast of people, and these actors have it's been really fun to watch these actors grow up over the
You know
last.
who Robin is?
Pardon?
You know who the character Robin is?
Robin,
Uma
which one is?
Thurman, Hawk's daughter.
Yes, I did not know that until this.
Yeah.
She's cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, Ethan Hawke and Uma Thurman, right?
Mhm.
Right. Now, who is Steve the Hare Harrington?
Uh, are you asking me, or is
Yeah.
this a?
Yeah. Who is that? Who's the actor who plays him? You have the information. I'm
What's
just
his
on my.
name? Sorry,
Yeah.
which character are you talking about? Oh,
Steve
Steve
Harrington.
Harrington, Joe Keery.
Joe Carey rocks. All right, so I think we should have a little poll if we're going to have a little poll. Who the favorite characters are of the audience? I say, is it Dustin? Is it Steve Harrington? Is it Hopper? And you guys want to add one more?
Or is it Joyce?
Joyce.
Joyce.
Really?
I'm just adding. I think Winona Ryder has done a tremendous job in this, especially in season one. I think she was phenomenal in season one. Absolutely phenomenal. She was like a
Wow.
mother on frickin' steroids who was going to do anything and everything she could to get her boy back.
I just have one thing to say about that.
What's that? You don't like her?
Not a fan
Wow.
of women. Thought she was the weak link.
Ooh,
Uh,
interesting. Well, you're just
I mean,
wrong.
everybody, I could be, but Dustin is so authentic and so interesting to watch. Very charismatic. Hopper is the same. Uh, Elle is the same. Of course, Sean Astin was great to watch his character. Bob the Brain, right? Was it Bob the Brain?
Oh yeah, he was awesome.
He was a great character. He was only in it for a few episodes, but a fantastic love interest, a heroic guy, and something that objectivists could identify with tons because it's him. It's his brain that figures out so much of the stuff in that season before he dies. See, I just told you he dies. That really helps them make headway against the monster. So he's a pretty awesome character too.
And the character who plays Max, she's awesome as well.
Max is pretty cool. Yeah. My favorites are Steve Harrington, of course. Watch him. Watch the chemistry he has with Nancy Wheeler character, but also with his best friend who follows him from the ice cream parlor to the video store. They have a great relationship together, especially when he thinks that he's going to be able to hit on her and it turns out she's actually gay and he has to set his sights on other things. He's a great he's got one of the best arcs I think in the show because he goes from being high school stud, star athlete, cock
Kind
of
of
the walk,
douchey,
little douchey as those characters are in real life. He's that sort of character, but he turns out to have a lot of substance. He's not just all about looking good and having money. He's actually got a heroic element to him. He's protective. He defends people, and it's part of his nature. And even though he loses Nancy Wheeler, he still loves her and tries to protect her. And he's a good, loyal friend. It turns out, a very decent guy. One of the best arcs I think in the series. I can't think of any other character that arcs quite so completely as he does. Can you guys?
Not as big as his arc, but that Eddie, the hard rock guy, had a great one in season 4. He only existed in season 4, but I liked his arc. He became a hero like the rest of the kids. He grew a pair, and I loved him playing his rock music down in the upside or whatever it's called.
Play Metallica, just like the guy from Metallica. Yeah, he's great. He had a pretty great arc, but it was a mini arc. We didn't get to live with it for a long time. And frankly, I'm a little pissed that he died. He was one of the characters I wanted to live. He was one of my favorites. So I'm thinking that where can they go with this next season?
Well,
go ahead.
Max is going to wake up from her coma, probably. I mean, she can't die. That would be really disappointing.
She's probably going to be the key into the mind flayer.
I think the mind flayer might infect her somehow, or might inhabit her in a way,
just like he did to
Billy.
Not just to Billy, but to what's his face's little brother.
Oh, to the buyer's what's his name? Oh shoot! It's Jonathan Byers' brother, Will, right?
Will, yeah. Will was infected by him, and the residual of the mind flayer still remains in him, right? That's how he can always sense where someone related to him is around. So she's definitely going to be a key into this. But where do you go now? Because she died for a couple of minutes or 4 minutes or whatever it was. It allowed that final portal to open. So now Hawkins and the rest of the world is in jeopardy. What can you do as writers? Where do you go?
Put them in more danger.
And you got to go higher, bigger, wider. And they already went global in this, which I totally respected. You had groups of people on the other side of the United States in the desert. You had people in fighting fights over in Russia, in the Siberia or wherever they were. So how do you go bigger this space?
I think they're gonna I think that they might kind of go back to basics, like season one basics chemistry. Like Hopper's back now, so I think it's going to be like a really big local team up. And but then I think that there's going to be some interesting arcs. There's interesting places to take Will. What did you guys think about where Will was in this
Before you
season?
go there, though, I also think you got to step it up with 11. Maybe 11 gets compromised. You
She
know?
could. I mean, 11 could turn into a bad guy. She's always been a good guy.
Yeah.
And she could turn it. What would be interesting is if she sort of turns into a bad guy sort of willingly, rather than just having her mind being controlled, because you can't really like blame a person when they're under the influence of, when they're being possessed by a demon, right? You can't blame the person for being possessed.
Mhm.
But what you can blame is that they sort of willingly go there, which was something that I thought was really, really great that they did. Guess what? I'm going to bring up Buffy. But they did that with Willow, who is the witch and is becomes very power hungry, and that lust for power turns this wonderful innocent seemingly innocent girl into an evil antagonist, but it was by her choice. So that would be far more interesting to me to see 11 go down that route than if she were just merely possessed by a spirit or
Yeah.
demon or whatever.
Okay, well, I don't want Eddie dead anymore. I think he made a
Eddie
big
has to
enough
come back to
splash.
life. Be
I,
resurrected.
I think he made a big enough splash to come back in season 5, even if it's a flashback. And I'm thinking, well, they've gone into another dimension. How can they bring Eddie back and maybe reverse this, but to find a way to turn back time?
Time travel. Are we going to do time travel? That might be,
Or
I don't know if
turn
that's going
back.
to be jumping the shark, but
Well, they did hint to it. Remember when they went back to her bedroom and it was a few years earlier with the diary?
oh,
Yep, that's right.
maybe.
It didn't go back to exactly the same time. It went back when the upside down was a little bit earlier, right? It wasn't at the exact, it wasn't the perfect negative photo negative of the present. So that's interesting. I don't know. I just keep thinking Eddie
Hi,
made too big,
Neo.
huh?
That's the cat, Neo. Jennifer's cat. Neo
Okay,
now is.
interrupted. Don't let him interrupt the podcast.
He looks hammered. So I keep thinking, they got to bring Eddie back in some way. He's too cool a character to just kill, even though he died in a super cool way. And I think they've gone to other dimensions. Now, can they turn back the clock? To me, that will be the next step. But I could be wrong. I didn't even think of Elle becoming an enemy.
I think that would be really fascinating. And they have to try and sort of win her back and get her to become a
But
good person again.
she's got such a strong moral compass.
Mm. Yes, but people with strong moral compasses are like the kind of people that can, if they think that they're doing the right thing, but they're really not doing the right thing, and they can kind of go down a path where they thought they were doing good, and then they ended up just totally succumbing to something. It's a possibility. I think it would be interesting to explore that.
So let's
Um,
just talk because I have to go pretty soon. But I want to talk about, to me, one of the things that makes the show great, and makes it, I think, worthy for objectivists to see. I was speaking to Daniel earlier, and he expressed the reasons he didn't like it, which I could see someone from an objective perspective having issues with that, malignant universe type of thing, where there are no real laws of nature, and so it's hard to pursue it in a way. It's a universe that we can't really relate to, but it is a universe and it has rules, and like many horror sci-fi films that go outside of what we know to be true, There are truths within that universe that make sense within it, and human beings are capable of figuring it out. And if you need somebody to figure out weird shit that's going on, who do you turn to? A genius nerd. And I'm using the two terms interchangeably because, nerd was one time a sort of a term of shame that has now been widely embraced by people, and justifiably so, because the nerd has weird knowledge and all kinds of interesting interests that they are very passionate about. And oftentimes in adulthood, that translates into great success in certain areas of their lives, too much to the surprise of the Steve Harringtons of the world, who go bald working in video stores in their hometown forever and ever and ever, while the nerd is in the IT world in Silicon Valley, creating programs that are changing the world. So to have these nerds, these kids that are bullied and ostracized by the cool high school kids, save the world, not once, but 4 times, that's pretty bitchin'. And to do it by figuring stuff out, using their brains. Dustin in particular is like a little genius, and his little girlfriend, who calls him Dusty Bun, it's their genius that saves the entire crew. And so for any objectivist who likes to see the mind active in the world, and being able to make comprehensible what's incomprehensible, and how vitally important that is to a person's life, check out Stranger Things. Get into that little world of Hawkins, Indiana, and hold hands with the nerds while they're going through this adventure, because it's pretty cool.
And there's not just one hero. They're all heroes. They're all super brave, diving into there's no way I would have stepped into this upside down world with its crazy hive, snake-like things everywhere, and who knows what around the corner, flying, eating bats. But they do. They go in like the military. Nancy's like commanding them all, and they've got their gun. They go in. They're so brave, and I love that about them.
Every single one of them has some type of courage from a slightly different angle that makes them very special and makes them work as a team, as a really cool team. So it's worth seeing it if you're looking for heroic values, and you're missing those in some of the TV shows that are out there now. Stranger Things has them, man. Hopper is a hero. And he adopts this kid as his own. He's a tough dad. I love the 3-inch rule. I love that he's so protective. Like he even says in one of the episodes, I protect and I teach. That's what I do. And I love that. That's the perfect parent to me. That's like the perfect dad. I protect and I teach. That's what I do. And he doesn't cower to or placate her because she's a superhero. I mean, she could do whatever she wants to him. He doesn't have the physical strength to overcome her superpowers, but he's dad, and that's enough.
I love that when Hopper and Joyce go back into the gulag to kill the swirly ash thing, whatever, that they're wearing American colors. They're wearing like American jackets.
American jackets, like popsicles.
It was awesome because it was just like America is coming into communist Russia and saving the day. It was,
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell if there's wokeness in the Duffer Brothers, or if there's patriotism, or if there's something in between. But there's certainly an element that unabashedly, craps on the Soviet Union and their ethics, and holds America as superior, and that's kind of cool. I like that. I like seeing that in a modern show that's going to attract, I think, a fan base that might not entirely be on board with that. So that's cool. But I'm open to hearing if there are any differences out there from people watching us, if they had any other ideas that perhaps I'm looking at something that is more woke than not.
Well, speaking of which, what did you guys think of Will and where he went in season 4? Because I got very confused about Will. I got like my daughter and I we watched it together and we were kind of like, is he gay or is he
I I
having
think
like a serious bromance thing? Is he in love with 11? Is he what's going
I don't
on with him? What did you
I
guys
don't think
think?
I don't think he's in love with 11. I think he seriously feels on the outside now, because 11 and Mike are like, like glued together at the hip, like any teenage people in love are. And there's the conflict of being pushed out by who is essentially a stranger when you've known somebody all your life, a newcomer. And I do think that he's going through, he's discovering his sexual identity. And I don't, maybe I'm reading into it, but I think maybe he's in love with Mike a little bit. And, and
I
that,
got that vibe too.
yeah, and that's part of what's contributing to his misery. He's such a good little actor. I didn't like the fact that he was pushed back and played such a minor role, really, in the monster story in season 4, because he's a really cool character. I want to know more what's going on, and maybe they're going to focus on him a little bit more in season 4. Maybe because he's had the mind flare in him, and now Max has too. Maybe there's going to be something with respect to them that's going to bring them to center stage a little bit more, because he's a good actor. He's got deep emotional life, and especially in season 1, there was a lot of stuff he had to act that was really challenging for anybody, especially a young kid. But that said, I have to get going. I don't think we covered even close to what we need to cover, or even discussed it in terms of objectivism the way we could. Maybe you guys can, if you want, if you can, stay on, answer questions. Are there any questions from anybody before I head off to my appointment?
We do have a couple super chats. But they're more statements. So Regina for 5, what is that? Is that euros or pounds? Euros maybe. Season 4 is my favorite, and Jamie Campbell Bower was outstanding. Thank you, Regina. And yes, agreed. Ellie for $10 Australian, just thanks. Mary Aline for $4. I think giving us a big cup of coffee. Thank you. So no questions, but yeah, we can for sure. Jennifer and I can. There's more stuff definitely to talk about. Maybe at a later time we can all do a Stranger Things Clubhouse. So maybe not after today's episode, but at a time when Mark is able to join us, we can do a more extended Clubhouse. There's definitely a lot to talk about in this. But Mark, I don't want you to be late for your audition, but break a leg,
Good luck.
please.
Good luck in your audition. Not that you need it. I'm sure you do fabulous.
Thank you. All right, guys. It was great talking to you. Should I sign off, or are you guys going to stay on for a little while?
We'll stay on for.
Yeah, we could stay on for a minute. There's some stuff
Okay,
we can
good.
get into.
Let me know if you come up with any interesting discoveries that I missed in my haste.
No worries. All
Okay,
right.
bye.
Bye, Mark.
Bye to Mark. And we're still on.
I do have a question. So I remember in the 80s, Dungeons and Dragons, like hearing about it. I never participated in it. Nobody that I hung out with participated in it. And I do remember religious people being kind of down on it and like acting like it was a cult. So that to me was a real conflict brought in from the real 80s. I am curious to know how much of Stranger Things pulls from Dungeons and Dragons. Were these characters in the underworld? Is it a part of it? I don't know. Maybe somebody out there who's participated in Dungeons and Dragons can share with us how much overlap there was.
Well, I can say so. My brother, one of my brothers, was a serious D&Der. And I think I played it for maybe like a couple months and then got bored with it and wanted to go party with my friends. But D&D, yes, has been seen as kind of a cult like thing because it's a role play thing. And there's all this, mythical underworld kind of stuff. So I think that there is a huge D&D influence. I mean, that's why they call the Mind Flayer Vecna, That's their term for him because that comes from Dungeons and Dragons character.
Comes from D&D. Okay.
Yeah, and so the people that play D&D are very quote unquote religious about it. Like they're serious. I mean, because it's a very elaborate game that takes you completely out of the reality that you're in
Uh-huh.
and plops you into an underworld
Yeah.
of all kinds of you get to have you get it's like you roll the dice, and then the person who's like the narrator, which is the person that Eddie played, he's the one that's kind of leading everybody and telling everybody, okay, you've got this power, you're a triple gilded monk or whatever with you've got this power to do this, and now what's your next move? And I can understand definitely why religious people had an issue with it, because in some cases it was seen as like Satanism and like devil worship, which I think tied in very nicely to the high school kids, the basketball team, that were like, they're evil, they're D&D people.
Right. And the parents and everything. And yeah, that's
Dungeon
really
Master, thank
fascinating.
you,
I can
Paula.
imagine them actually, the hook of them selling Stranger Things being, imagine if Dungeons and Dragons was real.
Hmm.
Boom. That's it. That's Stranger Things.
Yeah. And you know what though? We downloaded their show Bible. Because their show Bible was like a
Right.
brief, like it was really interesting. It was like a 12 pager, and they didn't. I think that they had D&D in there, but one of their other big comps was ET. And for the like the and you
Kids
get
that
that
are
in the
dealing with
first
something.
episode too, when they're riding their bikes, right, with flashlights on them, and you just get this sense that something like otherworldly is going to be happening.
Yeah, the kids have this thing going on that's bigger, the aliens or the whatever, the other portal, which the parents know nothing about.
Right.
But I liked how in this season they brought in the parents too, and just were so realistic and typical, and so, just with the police coming over, and they're having this big issue, and they're all searching for Eddie, and it was just a small town feel for sure.
I think one of the things I love about the whole Stranger Things I mean, it so takes me back to the 80s and to what parenting was like back then compared to what it's like now. I mean, back then it was like, okay, well, be home before dark, and don't do any horrible, dangerous things, and brothers, keep your sister alive, and that's
Yeah, all day long. And nobody cared.
and we would just go to the craziest places, right? I mean, if our parents knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
But,
So
we came
fun.
home, and that was it. That was what that was what mattered. But
Mhm.
one of the other interesting things that I really appreciate about this show is that each season kind of gets progressively scarier and more mature as the kids get older, right? The topics can be more mature, topics can be explored now, and you can do bigger jump scares, and because the audience is kind of growing up with the audience is growing up with the kids. And season 4 was pretty scary for me. It was, way scarier than all the other seasons.
Yeah.
And the guy that played Vecna, like the actual human, right? Not the Vecna the monster, but the one that was in the ward with Elle. That guy is tremendous. That was a really, really interesting role that he played.
And the fact that he preyed on these particular students and their weakness, the darkness within them, and like turning it on them, especially like with Maxine and her issues with her guilt with her brother.
Right.
And I thought that's definitely a more mature topic than season 1. But watching these kids grow up, it's really cool. Like watching Elle. Elle was a little kid. She's like a woman now.
I know. And
Yeah.
like yeah, if you see her on like talk shows, whatever, she's always like totally glammed up and looks awesome. And I'm always impressed. You know, I shouldn't be. I continue to be impressed though that there are so many non U.S. actors who can pull off a pretty good U.S. accent.
Yeah. Anything else that we want to discuss?
Let's see. I'm not seeing any super chats, so we could
Did Daniel do the poll?
Daniel did a poll. I can, yeah, let me see if I can. He did more than one poll, but I don't know how to find them all. There one was, did you like Stranger Things season four? 41% loved it, 33% didn't watch it. Boo-hoo. 25% liked it, but 0% didn't like it. So that was pretty cool.
Well,
Let's
I would
see.
imagine you have to kind of like Stranger Things to get to season four. If it's not your thing, you would have fallen off a long time ago. But season four is definitely a good one. It's not like one of those that gets kind of loses its way. It's still really, really good. The fourth season in.
Yeah, I think it got I think every season has kind of been like progressively better. I
Mhm.
mean, or as I guess because none of the seasons you're thinking, oh, well, this isn't as good as season one.
No,
Like I
no,
can
no.
I can look
They
at Buffy at
introduce new
7 seasons.
characters, and the plots get more intricate. And I just love that we had patches of kids and even the adults in different places. I mean, the episodes ran a little bit longer than usual. There was
Yeah.
one like in the middle that I was like kind of pacing and standing around walking, trying to finish it. But it was good. It was entertaining. Like it really did deliver, and you would jump from one area to the next and keep you on your toes. So I enjoyed it.
And I think there aren't a lot of shows that do that consistently from season to season. Like we can look at Billions, and we can look at our favorite seasons of Billions, right? I know
Oh,
it's kind of.
billions. Yeah.
I can look at Buffy, and I mean, in 7 seasons of Buffy, the best season to me was season five. And but then I think a show that delivered on all seasons was probably Breaking Bad. I think all the seasons of Breaking Bad were,
Yeah.
just one after another remarkable, and the Americans too,
Oh yeah.
um,
Yeah. Americans are great.
for sure. The
Well, I
Americans.
think so far Stranger Things is doing it. We'll see if they can do it for a fifth season. I don't know. It's got a lot of topping to do.
It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see where they go in season five. Okay, so we had the other poll, your favorite character. So 50% chose Dustin as their favorite character. 25% chose Steve Harrington. 12% Hopper and 12% Joyce. I was probably the 12% Joyce.
I didn't
But
see it. I would have voted for Hopper. I like Hopper. I think he's just such a man.
he is. Yeah, Hopper's definitely good.
Awesome.
Um, and for Game of Thrones fans, the guy that played the Russian guard that helped bust him out.
Whoa, swoon.
I know. Oh my God. I mean, Max and I, when we saw it, we were like, oh, that's the Game of Thrones guy. Oh, he looks so good here. Oh my God. We're all dibs.
Oh, that's so funny. We're having the same conversation. Same,
Very
similar.
swoon-worthy. It's very
Uh,
swoon-worthy. We did get a statement from Mary Aline for $2 saying, Jennifer, you have a black cat. She doesn't
no,
have a,
I have a
it's not
gray
a
cat.
black cat. Oh, she has a gray cat. Is
I
that
have a
Safi?
white cat. Yeah, Sapphire's gray. I don't know where she is. Sappy. Here, kitty, kitty, kitty. Oh,
She never shows up when you want her to.
usually she comes running when I call her, but she could be trapped behind a door.
Awesome. All right. So, all right. No, I don't think I've missed any other super chats. So I think that we could talk about this, I think, forever. Let me ask you one question. What do you think, from an artistic perspective, is the is the best element of Stranger Things? Like, is it the music? Is it the direction? Is it the cinematography? Is it what other
How do you narrow
aspects?
it down? I mean, I think the effects are amazing,
Hmm.
um, like at a cinema level. But you cannot say that Stranger Things is that's it. Like there's so much more to it. I love all the retro 80s. I think the writing is really good. For an action movie, there's some real depth to it. And there's arcs, there's interesting conflicts that keep you going. There's interesting choices. So that's good. What about you? What do you think?
Um, I agree with you about the effects were amazing. I think that the music is great. Um, the running up the hill. I mean, God, how many, like, it's all over the radio now, right? It's I mean, and that was, that was an 80s, a good old 80s song that I'd pretty much
When they
forgotten
were
about.
going into that house and you heard like the journey separate ways,
Yeah.
dun, 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 like that, like sent chills up my spine. I was like,
And
oh,
the Metallica moment, right? When Eddie's playing Metallica, it was just
with
like,
the red lightning in the
oh
background.
my God. That was amazing.
Amazing moment.
That's reason enough, I think, to bring Eddie back. Maybe they're gonna need Eddie's like wicked guitar playing skills in season
God,
five.
that was great.
But I also, so interestingly, I had as a point of reference. So up until this point, Game of Thrones was probably one of the most expensive shows to produce. Each episode of Game of Thrones came in at like, I think like 10 to 12 million or something like that per episode. Stranger Things beats everybody out so far for being the most expensive TV show to produce at 30 million an episode. 30 million
Unbelievable.
dollars. And most of that, mind you, you'd think that most of that would go to effects, but most of that goes to the actors.
Mm.
Friends was 12 million an episode, and that was all, there were no effects with that. That was just all the actors. But
Yeah, that makes
pretty
sense.
pretty impressive though, that amount of money to produce one
Well,
episode.
it's the top show, so it's bringing in a lot of views. And they can justify it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes sense.
All
Wow.
righty. All right. Well, do we have a date for our next show?
I don't think we do because we know that Mark was schedule was going to be tied up for a few weeks, right?
Yes, Mark is tied up until I think like middle of August. So we'll have to see what his schedule is. I think he'll be available like the August 12th or whatever Friday that is. So we can tentatively plan for that. But what's our next show that we're doing?
We have Clark.
Okay, that's an
I don't
interesting
know
one.
much about it. I know it's on Netflix and I think it's one season, so it's something that won't take that long to
It's
watch.
one season, it's 6 episodes, it's in Swedish, uh, and you have to be really, Max and I have seen 2 episodes now, and you have to be really on the, like, you can't even eat while you're watching it because the dialogue is so quick. It stars what's his name, Skarsgård, one of the Skarsgårds, and it's the interesting thing about Clark is that this is where the whole concept of the Stockholm syndrome came about through
Mm,
this one man, based on a real life story. And I'm not sure, like, I might want to throw it out the window, but it's an interesting.
Have you seen it already?
I've seen 2 episodes. I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
seen so two out of 6 episodes, and it's one of the shows I'm watching with my daughter, so I have to wait for her to be back. But she was like, "Can we just watch like Succession?" She was like, "It's really hard to follow it." And all
Oh,
the
you're making such a good advertisement for it,
I
Jax.
know, I know. Well, it's interesting. And I'm trying to also look at it from an object. It's got some, interesting aspects from an objectivist perspective that can be fairly controversial, which we can talk about. I can talk to you guys about it before we broadcast our next episode.
Okay, so Clark is coming up next, and then our next one after that is Mr. Sunshine, which is 24 long episodes. So get started on that because it's probably going to take you a month. It'll be a month when we do it, but it's probably going to take you a month. So
Yeah, yeah. It is a great show, but yeah, it takes some time to get through it. So, alrighty. Well, I will, since Mark isn't here, I will be the closer. This has been TV Talk with Jennifer Bouani, Jacqueline Schumann, and the now ghosted Mark Pellegrino. And thank you everybody for joining us. We will try to work out a clubhouse where all of us can be present and talk about Stranger Things. So, so until next time. Signing off.
okay, bye.
Bye.
See you later.